Football's greatest tournament is about to become bigger than ever. And that is exactly why some people fear it could become smaller. 48 teams, 104 matches, 3 countries. A World Cup stretched across a continent, with more football than this competition has ever demanded. Yet inside that scale is a dangerous question. Can the World Cup grow without losing the pressure that made it sacred? On the 11th of June, Mexico City opened a tournament that runs until the 19th of July, ending in New York, New Jersey. It is the first men's World Cup with 48 teams, and the first staged across Canada, Mexico, and the United States. 16 host cities carry the event. The map is not a backdrop. It is now part of the competition. It carries teams and supporters through different cultures, climates, and stadiums. For decades, the World Cup felt like a rare, tightly sealed month where every mistake became national memory. A missed penalty could haunt a country for generations. One bad group match could send a giant home. That old World Cup had 32 teams and 64 matches. Its limits created pressure. Its scarcity created ritual. So why tear the walls down now? Why add 16 nations and 40 more matches to football's most emotional stage? The first answer is simple. More countries get a real invitation, not just a dream from far away. But the real reason came later. Football's center of gravity is no longer confined to its traditional powers. The 2026 field includes first-time finalists Cabo Verde, Curacao, Jordan, and Uzbekistan. For those nations, this is not a statistical expansion. It is a new generation seeing its flag on football's biggest screen that changes academies, sponsors, local pitches, and the belief of a child watching from a small island or distant city. A World Cup place has always been more than a ticket to a tournament. It can change what a football culture thinks is possible. It can alter the budgets a federation dares to request. But inclusion creates an uncomfortable fear. Does a larger field make the biggest matches feel less special? FIFA's answer is a new structure. 12 groups of 4, then a 32-team knockout round. The top 2 from every group advance, joined by the 8 best third-place teams. At first, that sounds merciful. More safety nets, more chances to survive a bad night. But it also changes the mathematics of fear. Goal difference, late goals, and every extra point can echo across groups. A manager cannot only ask, "Can we win?" They must ask, "What does this score do to our route?" That is the first tactical revolution. Group football becomes less isolated and more connected. A 1-goal lead in one city may matter to a third-place table forming somewhere else. Then comes the second shift, the new round of 32. For the champion, the road can now require 8 matches, not 7. One extra match sounds small until you place it inside a season already crowded with club football and international travel. That is where the tournament becomes a test of squads, not only starting 11s. The world's finest player can decide a night, but the deepest bench may decide the entire month. The old World Cup loved the heroic image. One captain lifting a nation through 7 games. The new World Cup may reward something colder and harder to build. Recovery, rotation, nutrition, analysis, and timing. Late in the tournament, the smallest margins may become decisive. And that brings us to the part fans will feel even when they cannot see it. This World Cup is being played across a vast piece of North America. Travel, time zones, training bases, climate, and recovery windows are no longer side notes. They are tactical terrain. A team can arrive with equal talent and leave with very unequal energy. Behind every lineup, sports science staffs will chase the same precious hours. FIFPro's workload monitoring has already highlighted heat concerns at several 2026 host cities during the 2025 Club World Cup. That does not decide the World Cup, but it reveals the new argument football cannot avoid. How much should the calendar ask from its players before spectacle begins to damage the sport itself? That question is bigger than 2026. because the answers will shape future tournaments, leagues, and player protections. Here is the contradiction at the heart of it all. This tournament promises greater access, yet it also asks more from the people who make access meaningful. More nations can belong, more fans can travel, more stories can enter the global conversation. But the competition must still protect the thing that made every World Cup unforgettable: competitive jeopardy. The early matches will be judged ruthlessly. Are they desperate? Are they bold? Do teams still have something to lose? The answer will not come from a logo or a television graphic. It will come from the choices made at 0-0. Will a smaller nation attack for history, or protect a draw that might be enough? Will a giant take risks or calculate its path through a third-place ranking? What happened next in football's evolution was never guaranteed by expansion alone. It depended on the stories expansion allowed. Think of the first-time finalists again. Siyaba Verde, Curacao, Jordan, and Uzbekistan are not there to decorate a wider poster. They bring different journeys, different diaspora links, different tactics, and different definitions of national pride. Their presence tells every federation outside football's old inner circle that the door can open. It changes the goals those federations can set and the investment they can demand. Not easily, not automatically, but visibly. That visibility is powerful because the World Cup is still football's most concentrated form of attention. For 1 month, club badges disappear. The richest leagues lose control of the conversation. A defender from a modest domestic league can become a household name with one perfect interception. A goalkeeper can turn pressure into legend with one save. That is the sole expansion must not erase. The possibility that football's hierarchy can be interrupted in public. And 2026 gives that possibility more entrances. It also gives football a new commercial and cultural test. The United States, Canada, and Mexico will not host one single national festival. They will host a moving continental event. The tournament will move through different languages, histories, stadium cultures, and football identities. Mexico brings deep World Cup memory. Canada brings a growing modern football audience. The United States brings immense scale and infrastructure. Together, they offer football a chance to prove it can feel global without becoming generic. But that was only the beginning, because the lasting change may not be the number 48 or even the number 104. It may be the new standard every future World Cup will be measured against. Can a tournament be bigger and still intimate? More commercial and still human? More global and still fair? 2026 will not settle every argument. No single World Cup could, but it will force football to look directly at its own future. Who gets access? Who carries the workload? And what drama must be protected? That is the answer to the opening question. Bigger can still be sacred, but only when wider access is protected by real jeopardy and player care. The winner will lift one trophy. The game itself will leave with a different blueprint. A World Cup no longer has to be one country, 32 teams, and a familiar route to glory. That old model is gone. In its place is a larger, riskier, more inclusive experiment. And perhaps that is why 2026 matters so much. It is not simply football's biggest World Cup. It is football asking whether its biggest dream can survive becoming bigger than ever. When the final whistle blows, which change will matter most to you? The wider world invited in, or the pressure the game may risk losing?